McPhee at Mertech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on September the 26th in the year of our Lord 2025, and I've got some really good information for you tonight. Let's go ahead and click over here, Mertech on Rumble. This is my Rumble channel right here, and this is the video you're watching right now. Let me go ahead and get into that. Okay, all right, good night, sweetie. My little girl's going to bed, so had to tell her good night. But at any rate, okay, let me slide down here and open up the description box by clicking the Show More button. We have information from ACLJ Sekulow, Awaken with JP, Dr. Steve Turley, and X22 report. But before we get into that, I do have some shout outs to give from LB Carroll 123. Just started following my channel. Red Feather 1371 just started following my channel. Leroy Shipman just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1696. Debbie BS also commented on my daily news update, my daily news wrap-up. Big John Perez and Debbie BS commented on my episode 1696. Sam Rabel Vans 1 commented on my extra 181A. Debbie BS commented on my extra 481A. Debbie BS commented on my extra 481B. And Debbie BS and Gunner 6260 commented on my extra 181C. So let me give this a thumbs up. And there we go. All right. Let me get in here, jump up here. American ACLJ, American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow. Indictment. Comey faces heated grand jury. Well, let's see what that's all about. Okay. This gets playing here. Rumble must be taking a break or something. It'll soon get started, I'm sure.
That's right. You heard it here. James Comey. Indictment imminent. This is breaking news here. James Comey, of course, former FBI director. The sources are confirming. Sources are saying this is happening. It is happening very soon.
We knew that there had been a grand jury impaneled looking into some of these allegations against James Comey, but now it appears that the DOJ is prepared to ask for an indictment from this grand jury as soon as today. It appears they're looking at allegations he lied to Congress back in 2020. There'd be a 5-year statute of limitations on that, which would run out on Tuesday. So if they are going to ask for an indictment, it has to be in the next couple days.
Comey having the situation where he has essentially even admitted to lying in many ways, saying, that he had leaked things to the press or leaked things to his friend to then leak to the press and then to go and say, hey, I didn't leak anything. Very semantics game played by James Comey. Of course, he obviously has had so many issues come up, including even as recently as Shellgate just a few months ago.
That's right. Yeah, where he found those shells in the sand that said 8647. We do know that he has been an antagonist of President Trump for years. He used his power as the FBI director to get involved with an election, whether it be the way he handled the Hillary Clinton email scandal or what he did in the wake of that after President Trump was President-elect Donald Trump, and the way that he operated his FBI. It was not something that should happen in the United States of America. Now, what we will see is if the grand jury, when they are asked by the DOJ to indict him, if they will indeed indict him, and then where it goes from there.
Stems from testimony given before the United States Congress, where, and Ted Cruz has pointed this out very well, that James Comey, when asked about this leaking of information, did not give a forthright answer. At least that's going to be the allegation. In other words, he did not tell the truth. He lied. It involved a situation where an individual that was a law professor received notes from James Comey after a conversation with the President of the United States. That law professor then leaked it to the press. James Comey asked about the leak, said, I didn't leak anything to the press. And even more specific, Andrew McCabe, who I am no fan of, went before Congress and gave totally contradictory testimony. And I don't know if you all remember this. They were arguing with each other via then Twitter, now X, about who was telling the truth. I mean, there was these texts going back and forth. And this is a culmination of the unprofessional conduct, the illegal conduct, in my view, that James Comey engaged in as he was trying to basically, in a sense, blackmail the president.
Absolutely.
And that's a strong word to use, but I want to put it in a real context here. Remember, it was James Comey and Clapper and these others that went to the then president-elect in early 2017 before he was sworn in, and went through that whole situation with the Steele dossier and the allegations. So James Comey also said 3 times in writing, well, to the president actually, that he was not under investigation when in fact they already had opened up Crossfire Hurricane and he was under investigation. So there's just these, this is a guy that also in the Hillary Clinton campaign interfered with an election by getting out and saying she was first exonerated, then not exonerated, and reopened again. And you just can't do that as the FBI director. He jumped over the attorney general, who is his boss, when he made these statements. So this is, in fact, a long overdue process. Now, overdue being by Tuesday, the statute of limitations of allowing the Congress allegation, if in fact that becomes the allegation or one of them, was to expire on Tuesday. So the grand jury is impaneled on Thursday to meet. That's what's happening now. And a lot of people expect a returning indictment sometime later today, or maybe it'll be unsealed early next week.
As far as the process of this goes, we know that a lot of people in the press are reporting it is about, as you mentioned, the lying before Congress, that it could be things in addition to that. Those are the details we don't know at this moment. But once they take this and ask for an indictment before a grand jury, this is in the Eastern District of Virginia. What happens after that as far as process goes, so that people can be looking forward to what could come out of this?
Well, once a grand jury, if in fact they what's called issue an indictment, that is then taken to the judge and the indictment is issued. James Comey would be arrested and processed. He probably would turn himself in voluntarily, I suspect. And then the court proceedings start. So that's how it moves. It'll be handled by the United States Department of Justice. The Eastern District of Virginia appears where this indictment's coming at them. And they have an acting U.S. attorney who would be in charge of the case through the criminal division of their office. But it also may have Maine DOJ people involved as well. I'm sure it will, in the nature of the kind of case that it is.
In this kind of case, what's the timeline look like here? Because we know they have a couple of years left of a Trump presidency. And does that change? Could this indictment, this moment, kind of be reversed if we see the pendulum shift in just a couple of years?
Well, I mean, if the White House were to turn in 2028 to a Democratic president, he can order the Department of Justice to not move forward with that indictment. Now, if the case has been tried and a jury issues a verdict, whether it's guilt or innocence, not guilty or guilty, if there was a sentence involved, a new president could waive the sentence or reduce the sentence or even issue a pardon. But if it's not tried by then, yes, politically things can happen.
And
the Department of Justice is part of the executive branch and the president is in charge of it.
Well, I see a lot of people talking about that, saying, well, it took this long to just get to this point. Having a president, though, in place right now, could this be not fast-tracked, but something that is reasonable to get done within the next 24 months?
3 years is reasonable, and that's what's left.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think the case could be tried within that period of time. There'll be motions, but this is a high-profile case. I think it'll move in an expeditious manner. But I do think that we have to remember that there will be, James Comey will be entitled to counsel, and his lawyer will file motions to dismiss and motions to reduce the indictment. There'll be a whole series of legal work that goes in before a trial. But you could see, I think it's possible that you could see a trial in, in the next 18 months. Now, let me say something else here, because I see, some people criticize this is so political. I can't believe that, they're doing this. This is what the left's saying. They didn't say that when they went after President Trump.
No.
Both while he was in office and then indicted him afterwards.
Yes.
So, it's similar to what you all said yesterday, the double standard here when you were talking about the left wasn't saying much as conservatives were being, censored by Google. And, and of course, Google came out and said we were pressured by the Biden administration. So it's the same kind of thing here. I mean, they forget where and what they have done to this sitting president while he was president and then after he was out of office. So, they kind of opened this up.
Okay, there you have it, folks. And everything you said was true. Yeah, they seem to forget about what they did to Donald Trump and people associated with Donald Trump and people that went on J6, January 6th, 2021, to the Capitol building. Some people didn't even go on the grounds, were arrested just for being there in Washington, D.C., let alone going on the grounds of the Capitol. Unfreaking believable. But that's okay because Democrats can do that. But then Republicans, they can't even look cross-eyed at a Democrat. Otherwise, it's insurrection. They're Hitler. They're Nazis. All right, clicking on the Rumble link, it takes us over here to the video that I just shared with you, American Center for Law and Justice. I'm following the channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, jumping back here, I have more great information from Awaken with JP, his We Lie to You news segment. Jimmy Kimmel wins, and unfortunate autism breakthrough. Unfortunate. Okay, let's see what he has to say.
Higher or lower, whatever the hell happens, this climate change, it's the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the world.
Absolutely.
Good to see him take some heat out vaccines for a change. Good evening and welcome to We Lie to You News. Tonight's top stories. Jimmy Kimmel is back. There's a new announcement on what causes autism. France's First Lady proves she's a woman, which is something a real woman would never do. And Charlie Kirk's memorial service is the largest in history, yet is receiving gay criticism. All this and more, but starting with promises made, promises kept. Months ago, RFK Jr. said that in September he'd be making a major announcement about contributing causes to the autism epidemic in America. Why he's so intent on shrinking my dating pool is beyond me. But nonetheless, here's RFK Jr. stating that a major ingredient in Tylenol has been discovered to be linked to autism.
The FDA is responding to clinical and laboratory studies that suggest a potential association between acetaminophen used during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes, including later diagnosis for ADHD and autism.
And here's some footage of Nancy Pelosi the day before this major announcement. And President Trump went on to explain this.
Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good.
And here's liberals the day after this major announcement. They also went on to implicate vaccines with autism. Take a look. Oh, dang, we lost that footage? That's surprising that we're not going to show that now. They went on to also speak on the causes of ADD and ADHD, but I didn't really pay attention to what they said. Over the weekend, Charlie Kirk's memorial service was the largest in U.S. history for a private citizen, with heart-touching speeches by RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Tucker Carlson, and Erica Kirk, along with a somewhat neurodivergent speech by President Trump. While millions watched the live stream of the service, not everyone found it touching. Don Lemon, on a live stream with over 11 concurrent viewers, criticized the memorial service of a Christian man for having too much Christian faith. Let's bring Don on to find out more. Don, what didn't you like about the memorial?
I am a black woman.
I know you are, but what didn't you like about the service?
Charlie Kirk was a person of faith.
I'm sorry that's so offensive to you. President Trump, any idea what Don Lemon's mom had too much of when she was pregnant?
Tylenol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Moving along. News from last week. Jimmy Kimmel is canceled. And after a week of being canceled for saying insensitive things about Charlie Kirk's assassination, Disney announced that Jimmy Kimmel is back. The new announcement has some on the right disappointed. And after a week of begging to bring him back, it has many on the left distraught. Now that they'll be obligated to watch Jimmy Kimmel. Please enjoy. With Kimmel's staggering success at achieving impressively low viewership with a primetime slot, given free speech, this is the right thing to do. Plus, it gives the left what they desperately want deep in their hearts. Another white man on TV. And in breaking news, according to the BBC, France's First Lady has provided photographic evidence to a court that proves she's a woman. This comes after years of journalists investigating Brigitte Macron and reporting that she's actually a man. But now the photographic evidence allegedly proves otherwise. Now, the court-appointed doctor who was tasked with assessing the photographic evidence to determine what gender Macron's crotch belongs to had this to say while scientifically analyzing the photo in court. Holy oh God, don't make me look at that. No, that's horrendous. What the am I actually looking at here? Jesus fucking Christ, look at those god-awful fucking flaps. Fuck. I've never seen a shit show like this before. My life. Which proves she's a woman. Moving along. Lastly, how is the airline industry going to solve the problem of planes dropping out of the sky with their DEI hiring of pilots? Well, instead of backtracking and just hiring pilots based on what's referred to as their ability to fly a plane, the airline industry is working on developing an airbag system that will inflate and keep passengers safe when their DEI pilots steer the planes right into the ground. It's a great move to keep more passengers alive so the DEI pilots have more people to crash with. That's it for today's news. And in light of RFK Jr. and Trump's announcement about Tylenol being linked to autism, pregnant women on the left enjoy gulping down Tylenol in defiance before you get your abortions. Good night.
All righty. And I've heard reports that pregnant women have gulped down Tylenol and wound up in the hospital. All right, let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Awaken with JP. Here's a video I shared with you. I'm following his channel, giving him a thumbs up. And, I like the way he dresses. He, very professional, I think. Oh, unbelievable. That's pretty much how the mainstream media is there, folks. Okay, jumping back here. Let's move along with Dr. Steve Turley. You won't believe what the FBI found in John Bolton's home. Well, you might. Let's see what he has to say.
Steve, I'm here at one of the Orkney Islands in the northeast of Scotland. We just took a 90-minute ferry, and these islands are the northernmost tip of Britain. They're absolutely beautiful. It's like paradise up here, but that would be the exact opposite of what the deep state snake is experiencing right now. And of course, I'm talking about none other than John Bolton. As you know, the FBI just raided Bolton's home and office several weeks back. And really what they discovered is frankly pretty shocking, especially given how outspoken he was after the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago, where he said that Trump should be sent to prison for having classified documents illegally in his possession, which is patently absurd since the president has ultimate authority in what is and is not classified. But now the FBI has just released a list of what they found in the Bolton raid, and it's pretty stunning. We're talking classified documents about weapons of mass destruction, secret travel memos, and confidential...
Wait a minute. Isn't that what they accused Donald Trump of having? And they raised all kinds of hell about that. Secret documents about weapons of mass destruction. I believe I remember that when the FBI raided his home in Mar-a-Lago, even though he's the president and he could declassify that anytime he wanted to. But whatever. He is a Republican, and John Bolton, although he claims he's a Republican, actually he's a rhino. and so he can get by with it.
UN files scattered around his office like old newspapers. But here's the kicker. It's not just Bolton. While he's getting searched, former FBI Director James Comey is about to face criminal charges for the first time in history. Now, this story connects two of Trump's biggest adversaries in ways you've never even imagined. So let me break down exactly what federal agents found when they executed search warrants at Bolton's Washington, D.C. office and his Maryland home back in August. The FBI's search of Bolton's office revealed a treasure trove of classified materials that would make any security expert's hair stand on end. Now, here's the complete list of what they seized. They found a number of documents marked secret. So we're talking travel memo documents with pages carrying the highest level of restricted classification. These weren't just routine travel plans. We're talking about materials that could cause serious damage to national security if ever disclosed. They found a number of documents marked confidential, detailing secrets about weapons of mass destruction. Yes, you heard that right. John Bolton had classified documents about WMDs just sitting around in his office. The FBI specifically noted these were marked as classified and dealt with some of the most sensitive national security matters imaginable. There were a number of UN mission documents labeled confidential, and this involved multiple files related to the U.S. mission to the United Nations, containing sensitive diplomatic communications that could damage relationships with international partners. There were a number of strategic communication materials marked confidential, and these are reportedly documents related to the federal government's strategic communications, essentially classified information about how the U.S. government coordinates its messaging on sensitive topics. And finally, the FBI noted that at least one confidential heading was completely redacted from their public inventory, meaning there are classified documents so sensitive they can't even reveal what they're about. Now, the search warrant indicates agents were investigating two fundamental felony violations. First, the conspiracy to gather, transmit, or lose defense information under the Espionage Act. And secondly, the unauthorized retention of classified documents. In addition, the FBI confiscated computers and electronic devices that could contain digital copies of sensitive information inside Bolton's home. And this dual location search in both his home and DC office shows that the Justice Department believes that Bolton may have been systematically retaining classified materials across multiple locations, a pattern that suggests intentional misconduct rather than, just basic academic retention. Now, it's not just Bolton that's in hot water. Former FBI Director James Comey, who's another of Trump's nemesis, he's facing a comparable reckoning as well. Wait until you see this.
The legacy media often masquerades as...
Okay, he's going into a commercial here, so let me go ahead and jump past that. As you can see, he's on vacation, but he's still giving us the news.
$1 a month.
Just this, a 5-year statute of limitations that expires next Tuesday against James Comey for lying to Congress. So the Justice Department is preparing to seek a grand jury indictment as early as today, Thursday, making Comey potentially the first former high-ranking government official to face charges related to the Russia investigation, the Russian collusion investigation. The specific...
Incidentally, it's my understanding that they did file those charges and indicted Comey for that. In fact, there were two. We'll get into that in the Daily News wrap-up tonight later on.
Specific allegations against Comey center on his September 2020 testimony to Congress, where sources familiar with the investigation say he's accused of lying about whether he authorized leaks to the Wall Street Journal for an October 2016 article about Hillary Clinton's email investigation. The contradictions are pretty damning. Former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe told investigators that he informed Comey about the leak and that Comey approved it after the fact. But Comey testified under oath that he neither authorized the leak nor knew about McCabe's involvement. And Senator Ted Cruz blatantly stated, I mean, one of these guys is lying under oath, which is a federal crime. Now, of course, all of this isn't happening in a vacuum. President Trump just fired U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert from the Eastern District of Virginia and replaced him with Lindsay Halligan, one of Trump's former personal attorneys. And as many of you know, Trump has been publicly pressuring the Justice Department to move faster against his political enemies. I mean, just days ago, you might have seen that he went on Truth Social calling Comey and others guilty as hell and demanding that justice must be served. And he excoriated Pam Bondi for not moving faster. The timing is no coincidence. Both Bolton and Comey represent everything Trump's base believes is wrong with the Washington establishment, career officials who turned against him and used their positions to consistently sabotage and undermine his presidency. And so what's so fascinating here is that we're watching in real time the exact same justice system that went after Trump for classified documents, now turning around and pursuing his enemies for the exact same violations. Bolton had documents dating back from his time during the Bush administration, going all the way up to his service for Trump in his first administration. Meanwhile, Comey, who positioned himself as this self-righteous guardian of FBI integrity, he's potentially facing perjury charges for lying about authorizing illegal leaks to damage Hillary Clinton during the 2016 election. The same Comey, by the way, who lectured America about honesty and the rule of law. I mean, it's beyond pathetic. But it does look like these will be the first two of a long list of deep state operatives will finally be held accountable for their years of systematic abuse, which means that these cases represent a fundamental shift in how justice is administered in America. For too long, the Washington establishment protected its own while weaponizing the legal system against outsiders like Trump. Now that dynamic is finally reversing. Bolton's case shows that career bureaucrats who think they're above the law will be held accountable for mishandling our nation's secrets. Comey's impending indictment proves that lying to Congress does indeed have consequences, even for former FBI directors who thought they were untouchable. The American people deserve equal justice under the law. That's exactly what we voted for in November. And these investigations represent a long overdue reckoning with a two-tier justice system that's favored political elites for far too long. So it does look like the days of this two-tier justice system are finally over, which means let the indictments begin. God bless, gang.
All right, gang, that's a wrap.
All righty, there we go. It's a wrap. Let me click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from Dr. Steve Turley.
I'm here.
I'm following the channel. I'm giving him thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what X22 report has to say. All right. His episode 3739B, Deep State is moving from an info war to a physical war, Insurrection, C before D, the start. I'm not sure what that C before D means. Hopefully he'll explain that, and here we go.
Click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see they're now moving the information war into a physical war. And I do believe we knew that this was coming. We knew that eventually they were never, ever going to win the information war. And they were going to have to take their axe out physically. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're starting to see all of the left. They're starting to attack the right. And who's driving this? Well, the fake news, the Ds, you name it, they're pushing this with their rhetoric. Of course, what they're doing is they're trying to turn this around saying, oh, no, it's Trump who is pushing the rhetoric. But when you hear fascists and you hear Hitler and you see Newscomb and his team putting out messages when they're talking about Steve Miller and they're using the two letters SS, you could see exactly what they're doing. They're trying to create a civil war in this country. They're trying to push it with everything that they have. But think about what Trump and the Patriots are doing right now. They knew that they were going to go down this path. And as they move from an information war into a physical war, what are they actually doing? They're moving into an insurrection. And once they completely move into an insurrection, what happens? Trump can use the National Guard, can use the military to actually shut it all down. With words, it's a little bit more difficult. So why not let your enemy do what they do best? And I do believe this is exactly what Trump is doing. And while this is going on, you have to ask the question, why would they be doing this? Well, first of all, Trump is deporting all the illegals. Now, I'm not saying every single one has been deported. They've deported about 2 million. Actually, some of them have left on their own and others have been deported. But again, they see the writing on the wall with this. He shut down the Social Security numbers. He has Harmeet Dillon.
Yeah, he's deporting the illegals, and they're losing their voter base is what it is. The illegals, they're losing their voting base. And I think they're cleaning up the voter rolls so that dead people, my dead parents, can no longer vote Democrat.
Going around cleaning up the voter rolls, and it's going to be very, very difficult for them to cheat in the election. And I think this is why Newsom's out there letting everyone know that maybe there won't be a 2028 election, because this is how panicked they really are. Plus, the evidence against the deep state players that came after Trump back in 2016, well, a lot of that information is coming out. Now, like we've said before, they're not going after these individuals with the Russia hoax. They're going after these individuals with lesser crimes. Because when you're bringing out evidence saying, hey, by the way, this person lied to Congress, all you got to do is look back in Congress, look at the lies, and then look at the document showing that, hey, look, this person leaked something, but he said he didn't, but he actually did. He got caught in a lie. Same thing with Letitia James and many others. Oh, wait. No, I didn't do this, but there it is in black and white on a document that you signed. These crimes are very, very easy. Now, you have to remember how Trump and the Patriots do this. They started out very, very slowly so people can digest it. If they lied about this, what else are they capable of? What other crimes have they committed? It's almost like Tylenol. Hey, Tylenol causes autism. Again, you let the deep state players do what they do best. You let the fake news do what they do best. Let them counter it, and then you bring out more evidence, which counters everything that they've been saying and shows that they are covering up everything. The same thing's going to happen to Comey. The same thing's going to happen to Letitia James. The same thing's going to happen to all of these individuals. And once again, we could see Trump is taking the stance of, I have no idea what's going on. Yes, Comey's a bad guy, but I'm not pushing this. I'm not doing this. But he knows he's a bad guy. He should be in jail. And this is how you keep the optics. And you could see that it's going to be most likely Comey before the D class, because you have to introduce all of this. You have to show that, look, these people are liars. They lied on the forms. We have documented evidence. This is what they're doing. This is just the start. And while all this is going on, what do you think the deep state players are going to do? They're going to push distractions. Number one, we know they're going from an informational war to a physical war. So you're going to get those distractions. We're already starting to see this. But we know what Trump is planning. Most likely he'll be bringing the National Guard into where? Texas? Most likely to protect who? The ICE agents. So basically, is he going to be pre-positioning the National Guard all over the place? The more the deep state does, the more they go after ICE in all these different states and all these different cities. What do you think Trump is going to do? They're actually making the case for him. He's going to bring in the National Guard. Well, we got to protect the ICE agents. So you know what? Let's go ahead and disperse the National Guard in these states, in these cities. He's pre-positioning. That's what he's doing right now. Because he knows eventually when they go full physical, it's an insurrection. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No. I do believe it's going to be very, very close to the midterms. And as more and more evidence comes out against the deep state players. And what's the other thing that the deep state players are doing? They're trying to push a war. And you could see Trump has already set them up. So basically, Trump is pushing them down the path so they would cause an insurrection, a physical war here in this country. He's also pushing them down the path to start World War III. All of this is being done so Trump can trap them in all of this. And you could see Hegseth, he has called generals, admirals, all back to D.C. for one reason or another. Now, you also have to remember, this could be because of the renaming of the Department of Defense and Department of War. Now, really think about the timing of all this. Why did Trump decide to rename the Department of Defense to the Department of War? Do you think he's going to have the deep state players push us to war? And if he says, well, the Department of War has to be on alert, standby, ready to go for war, it's a very different picture than the Department of Defense, isn't it? So it seems like he is now pushing the deep state players down this path to trap them all. Because remember, he's going to be the peacemaker. We're not entering World War III. Will it look scary? Absolutely. Will it look like we're going to war? Absolutely. Are we going to war? Absolutely not. Trump is the peacemaker. The same thing with what's going to happen here in this country with the riots. Are they going to burn every city to the ground? No. Trump is pre-positioning, and he's getting prepared for the insurrection that they're going to have. So this is going to wake up a lot of people, and people are going to say, wow, Trump just stopped World War III. Remember, we have the Ds, we have the rhinos, we have the fake news, we have the EU saying, hey, we're just going to send a message to Russia. We can shoot down your planes if you enter any of these countries. Again, do you think Russia's really entering these countries? No. But he's already set this up. Trump has already pushed them to this point. So basically, you could see Trump is pushing all of this in this direction. Because again, how do you actually have peace? It has to be driven by the people. Yes, these small little skirmishes where you can end it very quickly, no problem. But if you have one side, like the deep state players are trying to start World War III, you just can't say, well, here's the peace negotiation. Here's the document, sign it. They're not going to do it. But if we're on the edge of war and it's scary and you have the people behind you, the people could say, no, we're not doing this. And the people around the world can say, no, we're not doing this. The same thing with the riots that they're going to commit in this country. The people can say, no, we don't want this. We don't want cities burning. Do something. Well, I just so happen to have the National Guard in Memphis, in Texas, in D.C., in Chicago, in L.A. You know what? Thank God we have them there, because now we can shut all this down very, very quickly. Plus, I have my quick reaction team here ready to go at a moment's notice, and I can bring them wherever I want. Plus, if I need the military can assist the National Guard and shut down the insurrection very, very easily. Now we're going to be talking a lot more about this and what Trump is going to do with the shutdown of the government, because you can see the deep state players, the Ds, they're trying to blackmail Trump, but it's not going to work. And we'll explain why in a little bit. But first, let's talk about Tyler Robinson. It looks like Tyler Robinson has been appointed a public defender, Catherine Nestor. And what's very interesting about Catherine Nestor, Kathy was invited by Chief Justice Roberts of the U.S. Supreme Court to serve on the Advisory Committee on the Federal Rules of Evidence. She also served on the National Steering Committee for the Clemency Project under Obama. Isn't that interesting that she is now defending this individual? Now, I do believe that this was a gigantic operation. And yes, this was run by the deep state players. Maybe some foreign governments were involved in this. And what's very interesting is that Charlie Kirk's assassin, Tyler Robertson, he made contact with police officers near the wooded area where the rifle was stashed, which is very, very interesting. And we can see more and more evidence is coming out. And I do believe that Cash is going to be coming out with evidence of what really happened with Tyler Robinson, most likely very, very soon. But the other thing that we could see is that the deep state players, they're doing what they always do.
This is ridiculous.
They're lying. The fake news is lying. The Ds are lying. They're all lying. NBC News put out a story saying ICE held a 5-year-old autistic girl in Massachusetts to pressure a father to surrender. Now, again, we know that every time they put stories out like this, what are they trying to do? They're trying to go to people's heartstrings, and they're trying to say, look, get emotional about this. Look what they're doing. I mean, this is why news comes out. They're saying, look, they're just grabbing just people off the streets. No, these are criminals. As soon as you enter this country, you're a criminal. You entered illegally. And if you commit more crimes, well, you're a criminal. And if you committed crimes in another country, you're a criminal. So they're not just taking citizens off the street. They're taking the illegals who are not citizens in this country, who are criminals, off the street. But since NBC put this out there, Homeland Security decided to respond. And they said, NBC News, these smears are sick. Our ICE agents never used a 5-year-old girl as bait. The criminal illegal alien target of the operation, with previous arrests for domestic abuse, strangulation, and vandalizing property, abandoned his own child in a car. Edwards Hip Mejia, a criminal illegal alien from Guatemala, ignored law enforcement emergency lights and darted inside his house, abandoning his 5-year-old daughter in the car. Officers helped rescue the child and called local police to report the abandonment. Stop the smears, stop the lies. And guess what happened? Well, NBC News decided to take that article and make a correction. And this is what they put out. Video.
Okay, now see, I don't understand how NBC is a network that is under the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission control. You know, I don't think it's of the public interest to tell lies about government agencies. So I don't understand, even if they did give an apology, how they can get by with this without some kind of millions of dollars fine. How can they get by with just outright lying to the American people? The FCC needs to step it up a little bit, I think.
Video shows ICE with 5-year-old girl while agents attempt to arrest her father. Correction, an earlier version of this article mischaracterized the activities of ICE agents in the video. The article has been updated. You mean you lied? You didn't decide to reach out to Homeland Security to find out what was really going on? Why was the child left there? Because they were going after a criminal? Once again, you could see the deep state players, the fake news, they'll just continually push this out there. And this is why everyone in this country has to continually call them out on all of this. Every step of the way, we need to call them out on all of their lies. And think about it. Go back to 2016 before Trump. There was no one calling them out on the lies. And when Trump came down the escalator and then started to call the fake news just that, fake news, people were like scratching their head. Why is he saying fake news? That doesn't make any sense. Today, it's a very different story because now people realize, holy crap, it truly is the fake news. They've been using propaganda on the people for a very long time.
Decades.
But you could see that the deep state players, Soros, they are now directing Antifa to take this to the next level. And yes, we'll be talking about Soros and how he's being investigated because we can see there's a lot of attorneys now in DC that are looking at Soros. Because you have to remember, Antifa is a terrorist organization. But you can see that Antifa right now is being instructed to take this to the next level with ICE. Andy No says, an Antifa blog site is issuing a call for further attacks on ICE Gov facilities across the country. The post also explains Antifa's ideology, sociopathy, chaos, destruction, and violence for the sake of becoming ungovernable. This is why Antifa's focus changes from Occupy-related rioting to BLM to Trans-Tifa. Anything that they can use to incite violence, they will exploit. Every fist that hurls a piece of concrete through a bank or an ICE agent's car window has the potential to ignite a wildfire. For some of us, chaos and destruction are the only activities in which we experience life as liberated creativity. So you can see ICE right now, they are now moving into the realm of insurrection. And they're being instructed to keep pushing this. Keep pushing this, keep pushing this, and soon Trump will say, we have an insurrection on our hand. He will say, go home peacefully and patriotically. Don't do this. But again, you know, these people are not going to listen because this is the insurgency. This is the insurrection. And this is why Trump and the Patriots are now pre-positioning the National Guard in all these cities. And as they keep carrying out these acts in all these different cities, you know that Trump's going to say, well, the next city is in Texas. The next city is in, Illinois, maybe Chicago, and so forth and so on. So he's pre-positioning everybody. But Kash Patel, he let everyone know that they found out a lot more information on what happened in Texas in regards to the shooting at the ICE facility. This is what Kash put out. FBI Dallas and FBI headquarters have been working 24/7 to seize devices, exploit data, and process writings obtained on location and in the subject's person's residence bedroom. This FBI is committed to providing timely updates as promised. The perp downloaded a document titled Dallas County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, containing a list of DHS facilities. He conducted multiple searches of ballistic and the Charlie Kirk shot video between 9:23 to 9:24. Between 8:19 and 8:24, he searched apps that track the presence of ICE agents. One of the handwritten notes recovered read, "Hopefully this will give ICE agents real terror to think there's a sniper with AP rounds on that roof." Further accumulated evidence to this point indicates a high degree of pre-attack planning. The FBI will provide further updates when able. So wait a minute. He used an app that tracked the presence of ICE agents. I remember that app. Karen Levitt clears it all up. 3 months ago, CNN irresponsibly gave free publicity to an app that recklessly shares the location of ICE agents. It has now been revealed that leftist lunatic shooter who opened fire on Dallas ICE facility was using one of these apps. The liberal media is complicit in the increased threats and violence against ICE. We see it every day. They're quick to write a fake story portraying ICE in a negative light, often omitting the real facts of these cases, and they hardly ever write about the vicious criminals that ICE is arresting every day to make our country safer. And you can see just from the NBC article, the CBS article, and all the articles that they put out, they're always fake because they're running cover for who? The deep state players. Remember, they are the bullhorn of the deep state. They're still pushing propaganda on the American people. Trump responds to the shooting at the ICE facility in Dallas, and he says the following: "I've been briefed on the deadly shooting at the ICE field office in Dallas, Texas. It has now been revealed the deranged shooter wrote an anti-ICE on his shell casings. This is despicable. The brave men and women of ICE are trying to do their jobs and remove the worst of the worst criminals out of our country, but they are facing an unprecedented increase of threats, violence, and attacks by deranged radical leftists. This violence is the result of the radical left Democrats constantly demonizing law enforcement, calling for ICE to be demolished, and comparing ICE officers to Nazis. The continuing violence from radical left terrorists in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination must be stopped. ICE officers and other brave members of law enforcement are under grave threat. We have already declared Antifa a terrorist organization, and I will be signing an executive order this week to dismantle these domestic terrorist networks. I am calling on all Democrats to stop the rhetoric against ICE and American law enforcement right now. The Trump administration is fully committed to backing law enforcement, strong borders, securing our homeland, deporting violent illegal criminals, and fully rooting out the left-wing domestic terrorism that is terrorizing our country. Thank you for your attention to this matter." So basically, any domestic terrorism network. So it's not just Antifa, it's any network, NGO, shell company, you name it, organization, you name it, that's assisting in all of this. So he's just put them on notice. So basically, you could see the deep state players, they're pushing towards what? An insurrection. Trump now is setting everything up to counter the insurrection. Actually, we can call it an insurgency, and he's setting everything up for the counterinsurgency. But once again, you could see that the deep state players, they're not going to stop. They're going to keep pushing very, very hard. And Trump, he knows this. He's bringing them down this path. He knows exactly what they're going to do. And this is why he's prepping for it.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. I'm like 21 minutes into this hour and 9-minute video full of great information. Let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from X22 Report.
So
I'm following the channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here, folks. And let me remind you that these videos that I share with you are videos that come directly from the producer's channel. Okay, the links are here for the videos that I've shared with you, and the links to the channels are here as well. In other words, X22 Report is the producer of this video. The link to this channel is, you click on that, boom, it's going to take you to X22 Report. Okay, so I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out. I do it to give everyone that's watching the idea of what's going on behind their backs. The lies, just like the lie about NBC on this 5-year-old child that was used as bait to get this illegal alien to surrender. That was a freaking lie. And if you listen to the mainstream media, you're going to get nothing but lies. Okay? Now, we do have a little bit extra time. I think I'm going to share some Wendy Bell with you because she had some great information today as well. So let me jump over here. This is right after she does the Pledge of Allegiance, so let's go.
You know, I think historically speaking, if we're going to look at how history will remember the day yesterday, it will be the day that the Democrats realized that they are, in fact, not insulated from their own culpability. That they can throw stones, they can play the victim card, they can point fingers, they can do all the things that they do to blame Donald Trump. But at some point, yes, in fact, it was yesterday, one of them got held accountable for being a scumbag. Okay? There is no more personal responsibility on the left. You can behave no matter how you want. You can cheat, you can lie, you can obfuscate, you can steal. You can propagandize the American people on a daily basis, right? You can get rich and lie about it. And nothing ever seems to happen. And then yesterday happened. So we've got a whole segment coming up, actually the second segment of this hour. We're going to get you all the nuts and bolts, what happened, what didn't happen with the federal grand jury indictment of James Comey. And it's interesting what they're trying to get him on. And what they're getting him on is lying to Congress. We call that perjury. And then when you do that, you obstruct a congressional investigation. Yes. Those two things together, each with 5-year penalties, bada bing, could get him a maximum of 10 years. Now, we're not putting the cart before the horse, right? Because the Democrats are trying to say this is all weaponization. Donald Trump just wants to put his enemies in jail. Donald Trump is a dictator.
Yeah.
No, we believe in justice, and we do agree with the Democrats that, in fact, no one is above the law, starting with James Comey. Now, before we unpack the nuts and bolts of that, and there's a lot to lay out on the table today, I want you to hear 2 audio sound bites that I found particularly enlightening. The first one is of John Solomon, Just the News. He's on with Fox. He's on with Hannity last night. And he says, look, the indictment of Comey, this is just the first domino to fall. There's going to be more coming. And the FBI, in fact, producing the key evidence to expose its former director is what makes this indictment so absolutely blockbuster. John Solomon.
What could be next?
I think other government officials are in danger of being indicted in the coming weeks, some in the FBI, some in other parts of the government. This is the beginning of a large accountability roundup in government. And I think what's really remarkable, most of my career I've spent uncovering FBI cover-ups. The FBI has a long history of misleading Congress. Comey falls into that. But the evidence against Comey tonight comes from the FBI and its new director, Kash Patel, who promised radical transparency. And he actually provides the key piece of evidence that leads to this indictment. If you're a member of Congress and you've been tired of lying, being lied to by the FBI, tonight's the first time the FBI actually did something about it. They turned in their own man tonight. I think that's an extraordinary part of this story.
100% what Kash Patel ran on, what he promised in his confirmation hearings. We are going to actually be transparent. We're going to dig into all of this, every question that you guys have had about literally everything and a bag of donuts. We're digging into it. We're going to find the files. We're going to expose those who slow walked, stonewalled, covered up, all of this, so that you, the people, never actually got the truth about who was trying to destroy this country. And we're going to start giving it to you. It's the same promise that RFK Jr. gave. By September, we're going to have some pretty interesting information to put out to you about some correlations between children and autism. And what did we get this week? You got that, right? Now, this is the interesting part, because the left doesn't know what to do. This is the first time. This is the first shoe to drop. Wait a minute. Hillary Clinton got away with literal murder. I mean, I'm using that in a hyperbolic sense, but you can understand my dripping nuance.
Yep.
She was able to interfere with an election. She was able to be a part of the wiretapping of a presidential candidate, right? She was able to be a part of the Russia collusion nonsense and basically get no penalty. What did the DNC get? $100,000 fine? What was her responsibility for that? Nothing. And she bounced and thought, hey, okay, all is fine. Well, with Comey's indictment, the walls are squeezing in. And I want you to hear Chris Murphy. Here's your senator from Connecticut, right? This is a guy who flies all over hither and yon to support criminal illegal aliens. This is a guy who's against everything that you and I are for. He's on Morning Joe with Joe Scarborough. And I want you to hear how the left is going to twist this. This isn't about Jim Comey possibly breaking the law. Jim Comey possibly being a dirtbag who created so much hassle for President Trump and for we, the people of the United States. Listen to how Chris Murphy describes this indictment and where he points the blame.
I think we have to understand what the underlying point is here. Yes, Donald Trump probably wants his enemies in jail, but right. What he also wants is to harass his enemies to the point where a lot of people decide to just stand down.
So even if it's tossed out by a grand jury or a judge throws it out, mission accomplished. Just like the New York Times case got thrown out, he's harassed.
Yeah, it's massively expensive to go through this if you're James Comey or Letitia James. And he sees what's happening in the corporate community already. Folks just deciding to sit on the sidelines. A similar thing is happening with Democratic donors. A lot of folks who used to play in politics have decided to just step back because they don't want to be in Trump's crosshairs. So the point here, sure, is to get a few of his political adversaries in jail, but the real point is a tried and true tactic of despots all over the country, all over the world, which is to just harass and intimidate their political opposition so that people decide to stay indoors, protesters don't show up, candidates don't run. That's how democracies die.
You mean exactly what they did to Donald Trump, the Biden administration, and the deep state while he was in office? Is that what you're talking about?
So according to a sitting Democrat U.S. Senator, Donald Trump is a despot. The guy who has managed 7 international peace deals in 7 months. Really? The guy who's closed the border. 0 border crossings. The guy who's carving out crime. Who has now said in the capital city, if you commit capital murder, you will receive capital punishment. And here's my signature. That is a despot. Or that is somebody who wants to, say it with me, make America great again, right? My, are they so worried on the left? So Chris Murphy says Trump wants his enemies in jail. No, Trump wants the guilty to be held accountable, as we all do. That's what we voted for, 77 million of us. Are you paying attention to us yet? He said Trump will harass his enemies just so that they stand down. We don't harass. Really, we don't harass. We're not interested in that because we're working. We're busy. We're doing stuff. We're not concocting stories and wiretapping and inventing Steele dossiers. We're actually doing the work that the American people hired us to do. He's trying to financially bankrupt his enemies. Donald Trump incurred $100 million in legal fees because of the round-robin smorgasbord of indictments against him.
Absolutely.
He's intimidating Democratic donors. No, You're doing that because your policies, your people suck, and Kamala squandered $1.5 billion. Who wants to give to a feckless machine? And finally, protesters will stay home, candidates won't run, and democracy will die. Really now? Is that what you're worried about? Because when we are coming back on the Wendy Bell Radio program, we're going to dig a little bit more into this big news, right? Jim Comey, federal indictment. Don't let this bombshell from the FBI, though, get lost in the chaos. The FBI now admits, oh, yes, we did send 274 undercover agents to the Capitol on January 6th. And say what? I remember plenty of congressmen asking for that very information from Chris Wray, ladies and gentlemen, who, if I'm not mistaken, lied. What do we call that? Oh, that's right, perjury. Okay, next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
Okay, I'm going to pause that there. Now, she's got some great information. I'm probably going to have to share some of it. She doesn't have a Saturday or Sunday show. Sometimes she does weekends with Wendy on Sunday. She doesn't have a Saturday show, though, so I might share some more of this with you tomorrow. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio. This is the video I shared with you. I'm following the channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap that up. But before I do,
stability on the left.
All right.
You can behave no matter how you want.
Hang on. Let me get the page back up here. There we go. I clicked the wrong button. You had to look at my entire face. Sorry about that. Let me give you some information here, though, from Westwood One Sports. Great information. If you're an NFL fan, this is great news here.
Hey, football fanatics. Are you ready for some primetime NFL action? Tune in to Westwood One for all the gridiron glory you crave.
Hello.
From jaw-dropping touchdowns to game-changing plays. Don't miss a moment of the excitement. Catch every snap, every tackle, and every victory on Westwood One.
That's interesting.
You can listen to the NFL on the NFL app, on the Westwood One Sports app, on WestwoodOneSports.com via Westwood One station streams, or by asking Alexa to open Westwood One Sports.
If it's the NFL, it's on Westwood One.
Okay, that was interesting. All right, but at any rate, let me say this about that. I'm going to copy, WBS was chatting with me a little bit. I want to go ahead and copy this chat into a comment. And folks, if you chat out there with me, then I will also copy your chats into a comment so it will be permanent with this video. And let me do a quick refresh here on this. Okay, I've got 94 people watching right now, and I've got 5 thumbs up. So, if I could get a few of you, like 89 to slide down here and give me a thumbs up, that would be fantastic. I would greatly appreciate that. Okay, jumping back over here to Murtech.com, where I do have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. All these videos that I shared with you are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com. That's why the screen was down here, because I started that video from Wendy Bell. Here's X22 Reports video. But I don't have time to share all 55 of these stories with you. That's why I do have my daily news wrap-up coming up here about 9:30. So let's go ahead and take a break. Go ahead and grab a cup of coffee and a donut or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer while I update my playlist and get my Rumble Studio ready to start my live stream at 9:30. So in the meantime, I do want to thank you for spending your time with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.